Months ago, the golfing world had a bomb dropped on them as a framework agreement between the Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund, PIF, and the PGA Tour was announced, shocking everyone involved. While this announcement came out of nowhere, it was a big shock because of the animosity between LIV Golf, who the PIF funds, and the PGA Tours. However, following this news, some believe they are about to join forces, while some think they're only agreeing to tolerate each other. But the truth is that many people don't understand the details of their proposed agreement or what may happen come the deadline. This is the Golf Caddy, where you get inside the rope scoops and some opinions from a former caddy himself. Today we'll be discussing what the agreement is all about, the upcoming deadline, and the changes it will cause, and everything else in between. Make sure to stick with us to the end for the shocking details. However, feel free to leave a comment with your opinion. What do you make of the agreement? Is it good for golf, or just becoming a money-hungry sport more than it already was? In June 2023, the PGA Tour, DP World Tour, and Saudi-backed LIV Circuit made a shocking announcement that sent ripples through the world of golf. In a joint announcement, the three organizations made it known that they would be putting their differences aside to form a unified commercial entity. They also mentioned that they will work together to provide an opportunity for LIV golfers to reapply for membership on the PGA Tour and DP World Tour after the 2023 season. This sounds like a usual agreement, so why exactly were people shocked? Well, let's back up a bit for a better understanding. In 2022, the Saudi Arabia-funded organization PIF was the majority investor of a new upstart golf league called LIV. Other leagues were not too pleased by the development due to several reasons. One, it's believed that Saudi Arabia was trying to sports wash their anti-human rights activities by getting involved in everything they could lay their hands on, and that included golf. Two, they were ready to splash around money the other organizations couldn't afford to steal the best golfers. And lastly, the structure of the league was completely different from what already existed. So it was quite hard for the other organizations to welcome LIV with open arms. The PGA Tour especially didn't try to conceal their distaste for the league. The golfers who agreed to participate in LIV were suspended from participating in PGA-related events, and they also lost their ability to earn OWGR points, eliminating many of their opportunities to participate in the most important tournaments, the majors. LIV and the PGA Tour began to sue each other, resulting in them being stuck with several litigations. Both parties were not making any substantial progress with their lawsuit, and the animosity among players grew, while also costing a lot of money, specifically for the PGA Tour. They increased purses to counter the LIV exodus. However, with increased purses meant they needed more investment from sponsors and other areas, and clearly were outgunned in a money race with LIV and PIF. Following a lot of back and forth, the two parties decided it was best to push their differences and do something beneficial for the sport, and that was what brought about the framework agreement for a new joint entity between PIF and the PGA Tour. We want to be clear that the agreement is between the majority investors in LIV Golf and not actually LIV Golf with the PGA Tour. What does this mean for LIV? Well, continue to listen and you'll find out. Despite the move being to serve a good purpose, many PGA golfers initially slammed the whole thing, especially because they had been kept in the dark. One person who initially wasn't in support was veteran golfer Tiger Woods. I would say that my reaction was surprised, just like I'm sure a lot of the players were taken aback by what had happened, and so quickly, without any input or any kind of information about it, it was just thrown out there. 𝗲𝗚𝗎𝗆𝗏 wasn't thrilled by the announcement, but he said he understood the reason behind it. I can see why it happened. I don't think anyone does. When you get an email that says this is your tour and three people basically decide your future, that's kind of hard to accept. Besides them, some of the other golf enthusiasts believed it was a bad idea to get in bed with Saudi Arabia due to their multitude of human rights violations, such as the murder of the Washington Post journalist �𝗲𝗡 Khashoggi in 2018 and supposed involvement in 9/11. Jay Monahan co-opted the 9/11 community last year in the PGA's unequivocal agreement that the Saudi LIV project was nothing more than sports washing of Saudi Arabia's reputation. Now the PGA and Monahan appear to have become just more than paid shills, taking billions of dollars to cleanse the Saudi reputation so that Americans and the world will forget how they funded terrorism. But the PGA Tour commissioner made it clear that the decision had been made for the benefit of every golf lover and player. How did we go from a confrontation to now being partners? We just realized that we were better off together than we were fighting or apart. We are proud to partner with the PGA Tour to leverage PIF's unparalleled success and track record of unlocking value and bringing innovation and global best practices to businesses and sectors worldwide. So what exactly is this agreement about? Let's break it down. The first thing to understand the current agreement signed by the PIF, PGA, and DP organization is only a framework of what their joint enterprise would be, and they agreed to reach a final agreement by the 31st of December this year. As it is, there's a good chance the deadline will be postponed because a lot of things have happened since the initial announcement. Another thing is that the agreement is not a merger of the sports leagues nor a PIF takeover of the PGA Tour, but rather a joint investment among the three leagues to create a new for-profit company. Initially, the announcement showed that the PIF, the organization with enough money to throw around, would be the exclusive investor for the company, pumping 90% of the total funds needed for the company. Then the PGA Tour would be the one in control of the operations. The PGA Tour's chief Ron Price made it clear that if the final agreement does not end up with them in charge of the new entity, the deal would be off the table. This is to show that they have no intention of PIF being at the forefront of golf. We will not move to a definitive agreement unless the PGA Tour is in complete control of the new entity, which will be a PGA Tour subsidiary controlled by the PGA Tour board and operated for the benefit of all our constituents, our players, fans, sponsors, and charities. If that is not where we end up, we will not even recommend approval. However, things have changed regarding the exclusivity of PIF's investment in the entity. When the framework agreement was announced, several antitrust issues arose with the U.S. Department of Justice. The summary of it all is that they all can believe Saudi Arabia is making this deal out of good faith. And so, to reduce the scrutiny from the DOJ, the PGA Tour decided to involve some American investors. It also helps that many people showed interest. As it is, the American investment group that would be joining the PIF as minority owners of the new golf entity is the Strategic Sports Group, SSG. SSG is a corporation of billionaire team owners that includes Arthur Blank of the Atlanta Falcons, Tom Werner and John Henry of the Boston Red Sox, and Wyc Grousbeck of the Boston Celtics. Although negotiations are still ongoing between all parties, it's believed that the SSG would be investing $3 billion into the new entity. Now that we've cleared up the financial aspect of the framework agreement, let's go into other details. In the framework agreement released, it's been revealed that LIV Golf's uncertain future will be determined by the PGA Tour. Monahan hinted that there might be some changes to the current format, but everything is not definite yet. The whole thing will come to light when the final agreement is released. Another aspect mentioned in the agreement is that the PGA Tour will continue to operate independently and will not make any changes to its current structure. But things might have changed in this aspect since the initial framework agreement was released, because there have been unofficial statements about the PGA considering adding more no-cut designated events, a move clearly inspired by LIV. Much speculation is that LIV Golf League will be disbanded or somehow swallowed up by the new entity and go back to one major golf tour with a team aspect instead of two competing tours. It's also important to mention that the agreement entails both sides dropping existing litigation and an additional clause where if the whole deal falls apart, the litigation cannot be renewed. So, the summary of it all is that the organization would be coming together to create an entity that could fund the league's involvement in the partnership. PIF and SSG would provide the money, the PGA Tour would provide the brains, and the DP World Tour would enjoy the benefit of it all. As good as it sounds, the negotiation process has been going slowly. Although many golfers and golf enthusiasts have come to understand the benefit of this move, some other things have been causing a hold. Tiger Woods, who is part of the PGA Tour policy board, recently told reporters that the whole negotiation is murky and that things are quite hard to navigate. There's a lot of moving parts on how we're going to play, whether it's here on the PGA Tour or it's merging or team golf. There are a lot of different aspects that are being thrown out there all at once. We'd like to believe that the deal would be finalized soon, but what happens if everything falls apart? If we were to take a wild guess, the animosity in the world of golf would intensify and it would be so hard to pick up the pieces. The PGA might lose more really good golfers to LIV as it recently lost Jon Rahm, and LIV would find it harder to get the recognition it so desires. Although they might not be able to reopen their previous litigations because of their settlement agreement, they can decide to sue for other reasons. Hopefully, things work out well. So what do you think about the PIF and PGA Tour Framework Agreement? Let us know in the comment section, and we'll see you in the next video.